Hi folks, right, so this is the Technology in Sport L04 support for your sports science course. So basically, the first step is you need to do a load of reading, folks. You need to understand the absolute nuts and bolts basics about whatever you're doing. Now the three I'm concentrating on are VAR, Hawkeye and TMO. Now in the collaboration area here, you click on that. The one underneath, I've got lots of different ideas and things that you can get some reading from there. If you find a good article or something like that, put it into that section there. The collaboration space is something that we can share as a class. So if you find something good, put it in there. This is like our sharing area here, okay? You should probably start with Wikipedia here, folks. It's good for basic information. It's got a bit of a bad reputation, but it's excellent just for that kind of basic information, like the what are the basics that VAR actually does? What does Hawkeye do? How does it do it? How the camera's working, etc. Okay, so yeah, the application of technology. How is it used? What are its core values of the technology? All in Wikipedia. Right, reason for the introduction. Now, the reason for the introduction is broken down into performance, gameplay and spectatorship, just like the rest of the course that we've been doing for technology in sports. The first one, just looking at performance. This is a bit of a thin one, but essentially for all of these, it improves the performance of players because players aren't worried about decisions. They're not... Players stay more calm during the game and don't argue with officials. So rather than players wasting energy, shouting in officials' faces, or John McEnroe was one that we talked about if you're doing Hawkeye for tennis where he used to go crazy at officials and things. Well, actually, they stopped doing that now because they stay calm and they just use the challenge. Or VAR, the referee will just say, well, it's being checked, and people just stay calm. So actually, it stops people using unneeded energy on sort of appealing to referees and things like that because they know it's getting checked. Gameplay is the next one. So reason for the introduction for gameplay. Right, so this is obviously the key one. So this should be probably your biggest paragraph for this reason for the introduction. So obviously it improves accuracy. That's the key. They want big decisions to be right. Too many big decisions being decided by... Sorry, too many big games being decided by bad decisions. A lot of money's at stake, particularly in the Premier League. You're talking about that, like the possibility of getting a Champions League place, or the difference between relegation or not getting relegated. It's like millions and millions of pounds here. So tens of millions, hundreds of millions. So obviously they want to be getting that right. And also they want to support referees. They want to be supporting referees to make the right decisions, because referees obviously don't enjoy getting things wrong, etc. And at times they need support where they've not seen what's happened there. So yeah, I would be covering them and again, I think that applies for all of them there. So yeah, I would be really drilling that improves accuracy thing. And last one is spectatorship. So spectatorship, I've not written it down here, but the other one, which links to what I was talking about with Johnny McEnroe, was it creates role models for spectators. So if I'm taking my little into a tennis game, actually today I'm not going to hear like lots of swearing and smashing rackets and things because of poor decisions. Whereas actually in the 80s, John McEnroe sort of era, that happened a lot. Whereas now people stay calm and they just follow the challenges system. You think of Roy Keane and years ago where players would be teams would be surrounding referees and shouting at them. That doesn't happen either. So again, I would be talking about role models here, role models. And it makes more fans more confident in the decisions that are being given to. So that's what I'd be talking about with spectatorship. Next one, history and tradition. So how was it done before? So like playing to the whistle. You know what I mean? What was the system before this was introduced? So again, players shouting at referees. It used to be that, and this still happens in where there isn't VAR, where players in non-league will be thinking, do you know what, I'll be able to get a decision out of the referee by being in his ear all game and trying to, do you know what I mean, persuade referees and things. So like there was always be that bit of controversy. Like everyone used to say, oh, Howard Webb always gives Manchester United penalties at Old Trafford type thing when they were in their dominant era. So yeah, but that's what I'd be going for there. Reactions of key stakeholders. So I have just put one down there for fans under VAR because I happen to see a an article, so I put it in there. But for all of these, for VAR, Hawkeye, and TMO, you need to be thinking players. How have they responded to it? Again, you could link back to that whole stay calm, fans, what's their reaction been? So obviously for VAR, this 67% of fans say VAR makes the game less enjoyable, which is what they're there for, really. And what do officials think about it? What do the referees think about it? So again, as part of your research, you need to be looking into what are different people's opinions of how VAR is working. Are they happy with how it's working, or Hawkeye or TMO? Features which affect its use. So the cost, obviously, there's a massive cost implication with all of these. So the Premier League, Six Nations, Centre Court, obviously all do use it, but then lower down it doesn't get used. There's some tennis tournaments where, like, you'll be playing one game on Centre Court where you've got Hawkeye, and then later on you've not got Hawkeye and you can't use the challenges. Is that fair? Is that right? Or should it be a level playing field? So yeah. Has it addressed what it set out to? So you've got to link this to your opening paragraph, folks. So hopefully you've done a decent opening paragraph where you've said what VAR, Hawkeye or TMO set out to do, what were its objectives, what decisions was it impacting, or whatever it may be. And then you say, has it done these things? Now, you may have loads of negatives against that, but just judge it by its own standards of what it's set out to do. I would hold off on the negatives and do not say them there. Okay, if you can find some research like that poll that I just looked at a minute ago about the number of accurate decisions that there's been in rugby or VAR or Hawkeye since it was introduced, that would obviously be quite effective here as well. So again, keep linking your research in. If you've done the reading to begin with, you're going to be laughing. Next bit, so any unintended negative consequences. So unintended negative consequences. So there's loads of controversy around VAR. You need to do some reading. There was the Women's World Cup where goalkeepers were coming off their line to save things, and then they were like to save penalties, and then they kept having to retake them. But then the Premier League aren't really keeping as close an eye on that now. So you've got kind of discrepancies in how VAR is being used. So obviously it's being implemented differently. Sometimes they go looking at these monitors on the halfway line. Sometimes it just goes to Stockley Park. The fans at home and the fans in the stadium get a very different experience, because the fans at home can see the replays, whereas the fans in the stadium, it just says VAR in process, decision pending. Obviously it undermines the referee, and that applies to all of them. So obviously it used to be play to the whistle, the referee's decision's final, and that's almost like a life skill of like, you know, a decision was wrong and the ball was out, but the referee hasn't seen it's gone out, so you've got to get on with that. That's kind of part of the kind of great thing about sport, really, where it teaches them life skills of just keep going or whatever it may be. And the last one, this is a big one, and I would have it for all of them, definitely for TMO or VAR, is not being able to celebrate. You think of them City fans going absolutely nuts when they thought Sterling had scored that equaliser in the Champions League, only for it to be ruled out. So now, actually, if I'm at a game and a goal is scored, do I erupt with emotion where I'm absolutely delighted, jumping on top of my mates who I've gone with, or do I sit there quietly, just double check, right, okay, the VAR check's gone through, right, okay, yes, now we're 1-0 up, brilliant. And then it's kind of, they're different emotions, aren't they? So are you taking some of the emotions out of football or rugby or tennis? Unintended positive consequences. So obviously sportsmanship is something I touched on earlier, so obviously it does improve that because it stops people surrounding the referee. So again, I might now be more likely to take my kid to a football game than I was before, or a tennis game, because actually I don't want to expose my 6-year-old daughter to effing and blinded everywhere type thing, or I'd say that probably applies more to tennis. It creates tension while you're waiting for the decision. With Hawkeye at Wimbledon, there's like a crescendo of clapping where it goes dun 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 and dun dun, and it's almost adding to the game. That's the same in cricket if you're doing about cricket as well, where it's almost like a second celebration. Another unintended positive consequence would be Nigel Owens in rugby. He's actually really funny and he really adds to the game of rugby. So he's part of the entertainment too. And it helps people who don't really understand the different rules of rugby understand why decisions are being made. Now, when I talk about my future bit here, I've put a link in the future page. I'll talk about it in a little bit, but where basically football referees could be mic'd up. Maybe that will be in the future, where football referees are mic'd up and the fans can hear the different decisions that are being given and why they're being given, but I'll come to that in a minute. Right, developments and adaptations of the technology changes. Again, you've got to go back to your Wikipedia. How has it been changed? What are the different applications of the technology? How are some countries or competitions using it differently? That's all on Wikipedia, folks. And I've put goalkeepers there with the Women's World Cup. I've put the halfway line monitor there. I've put that, you could put the Australia thing in there that I was just talking about a second ago. So yeah, that's self-explanatory. Now, this is about development and adaptations of the sport, not of the technology. How has the sport changed to adhere to the new technology? So while football's changed in that they pause throwing, so once the ball's gone out for a throw, let's say, they will then go back and check that possible red card, and they'll delay the start of the game. In tennis, there's a challenges system where each player gets 3 challenges per set and an extra one if it goes to a tie break. If you're doing Hawkeye, you need to explain the challenges system. And similar with TMO, once a try has been scored, they will pause and they will just check the try if the referee has anything to check. So VAR and TMO quite similar in that sense. I would say TMO is probably a bit better in terms of like you can hear the referee mid game going, oh, can you just check that for me? I think there was something going on over there, and then the checking during it. Whereas football, it just seems to be taking too long at the minute. Again, I would be putting that in your negatives, where you could reference. In fact, you definitely need to do this in your negative unintended consequences, where I always talk about that one where it was Real Madrid v Ajax last year in the Champions League, where there was a 5-minute wait on whether a ball had gone out or not, and then they eventually gave the goal, but 5 minutes where you're sat in the stadium picking your nose, not looking at replays, and you're going, well, this is boring, this is taking the fun out of the game, a bit like the not being able to celebrate thing. Is that sucking the enthusiasm and love out of football? Implications for the future. What do you think might happen in the future? So for any of these, you could you have a game fully called by technology using drones or using whatever it may be, where the decisions are put on the live board or something on them lines? Could technology come more into the sports? Could they roll it out further? Could it be it goes into the championship, or could there be more TMO in lower leagues of rugby, or on more courts at Wimbledon? So could they roll it out further? Now, this is where I've put that link of the Australian person who you can hear talking through the game. I would definitely be mentioning that, folks. You need to mention that in your work, where essentially we're kind of making fans more part of what's happening. The fans are not involved enough, and there's also a good interview with a referee there at the bottom of what he thinks should possibly be changed. So definitely look at them 2 clips if you're doing VAR, which I know a number of you are. And last one, so summarise what you've already said. Give your opinion. Has it been a success? Read the sample answer as a guide. Now look, I've put what to include in a conclusion underneath. You shouldn't be bringing up new things. You shouldn't be going, oh yeah, and in Australia, da, da, da. No, that's been done on a previous slide. You don't want to bring up new things. Go over the main points of what you've said and give like a balance of what's happened, and give your thoughts and your point of view on what research you've done. Give your opinion, okay? Look, that's all I've got for this, folks, but I would say step 1, make sure you're doing your reading, and step 2, follow the guide here that we've got. Okay, thank you.